Hello. Hi, goats, and everyone who found this channel, my channel through that one pagan crochet video that I did a couple of years ago. This is a follow-up. We have more pagan crochet, some of which is being a chair for my goat who wanted to say he wanted to be the first part of the video to greet you. I guess this is just a very sparkly preview of what's to come. The airplane going overhead is a very nice segue into some logistical things. I hope the background noise it isn't too distracting or doesn't bother you too much. Let me know if it does. I've realized that even though I would like to still get better at editing and like learning how to make the sound quality of my vids better, if I focus too much on that, I won't be able to get this out in a timely fashion. So for right now, we're just gonna. I'm planning to have this video, or like this series, because I'm hoping to make it a series where we talk about pagan witchy crochet and yarn stuff. Anyway, I'm just planning to do more of like a podcast style, so you're here with me in my backyard with all the different sounds like the airplanes, and not sure what that is, but that sound, if you can hear it. There might be some birds, there might be some neighbors, so yeah, well, welcome. It might be the cat if she walks by. She has a very loud voice. And so with that out of the way, just gathering my thoughts. So yeah, I would like to talk to you about some different ways that you can, and that I incorporate my life as a pagan witch into my yarn crafts. And these aren't the only ways you can do that, and I do tend to focus more on like the deities in my practice, and less on like the magic stuff. That's not that you can't, or that it's a bad thing, just like that's my focus. I would like to learn more about the different things people can do, because I feel like there's a long history, like this is just my impression, that there's a long history of using different types of fiber in like magic or like folk practices, but I'd have to look up more. I'd have to learn more about that. But if you'd like me to talk more about that or any other topic in this area, then feel free to let me know. Even from the examples of pagan witchy crochet in my own life, what I have here is just a small sample. So there's definitely more to talk about. Coffee break. Up until I moved here, I had a podcast on a different channel where one of the things that I always did was, at some point I would stop for a coffee break, and it would often turn into like a water break too, because I was actually dehydrated. Like I would try to see if drinking coffee would do it, but then I'd be like, no man, I have to actually drink water. Oh well. so I did. and that was that channel was one where I talked a lot more about the pagan side of my life, which often overlapped with yarn. But yeah, if you want to go see my some other thoughts I've had about this, then you can check out the Midnight Ballroom podcast channel, which is one of my linked channels. It has like 30 something subscribers. So it never got very big, but I definitely had fun making it. So let me just think out loud about the different types of things I'm going to talk about, the different types of pagan crochet, I guess, that you can do, not an exhaustive list, but just the ones I wanted to talk about, and that will kind of give you an outline too. So there's suddenly I'm like, wait, there are two columns in the, or like two factors in the graph, so it's not just a list where you can, it's like top and side, so they have different combinations. So which do I list, the ones on the top or on the side? I hope that made sense. But let's see the different things you can, the different aspects of the pattern or the project you can work with. Let's start with that. You can use the yarn color or fiber type. Airplane. You can use the actual pattern, and that can be a pattern that you create or that you find, or I think that's, oh yeah, or you can use the overall type of project that you're making, because I guess this is kind of like the two subtypes of pattern, because it could just be like a repeating lace pattern that's just a couple of rows, and you could use that lace pattern in any project, but the overall project is like the other sense of the word pattern. So the type of thing you're making, whether it's a garment or a blanket or like an altar cloth, I'm currently making one of those, and also like the actual types of stitches that you choose could all be factors, and you can use all of those things to connect to a certain deity or spirit or a certain holiday. I think most of us are familiar with doing something for Halloween, so it's kind of like that, except other times of year, or if you're connecting to like a being instead. And this is the part I don't know as much about, but you could make something that's meant to do a certain thing, like in the magical or spiritual realm. A lot of my more recent projects have symbols on them that I'm still learning about this, and I'm doing this in connection with my gods and guides who are kind of advising me on this, which I mean that for, at least for some people, that does tend to be a huge part of like this spiritual path of just like what is the otherworldly side of things teaching you. It doesn't have to be, but just for me it is, so I'm going to be speaking to that also. And there's probably other stuff that you can, I mean, I'm sure there's lots of other stuff that you can do with like Pagan, witchy, crochet. But those are a few of the things I wanted to talk about with the examples I currently have. And then if you want to stay here, stick around after that. This is actually a kind of a rehash of the workshop I gave at the vending event that I went to last month. So if you'd like to hear some stories about that, then I can tell some of those at the end. But for now, we could just start with what I'm wearing. It's this cape. I guess my dragonfly cape. This is an example of the yarn, the pattern, and kind of the overall garment all being connected to a specific deity. So I've started a small business dyeing yarn, and the deity in my practice who is in charge of that business is someone that I know by several names, and this is partly like personal gnosis. Not everyone who interacts with any of these names will think that they're will experience them as the same deity, but I do, so I'm just going with what she wants me to see her as. So anyway, some of the names I know her by are Inanna, or the Sun Mother in my the Minoan practice, my the Minoan pagan inspired practice, whose name is Terasia. And I feel like I strongly associate the color blue as belonging to her, and my understanding is like there's some historical parts of that, but I can't really speak to that. But even before I found out that there might be more to that than my gnosis, I felt strongly that just like blue was very strongly connected to her. I guess it makes sense if she's the Sun Mother, or as Inanna, the Queen of Heaven. The sky is blue, so all of that to say, since she's in charge of my business, the first skeins of yarn that I dyed were for her, so that was these. And then this is also a later version of the colorway that's hers, my Vault of Inanna colorway. But this was kind of the prototype. So I had all this yarn on her altar just for a long time, since I knew it was hers, but I didn't know what I was going to do with it yet. And that's actually kind of an interesting point. I'm sure that many of us have gotten yarn and we're not sure what we're going to make with it yet, but we just kind of say, oh well, the yarn will tell me what it wants to be when it's time. That's actually very, very similar to the way that I interact with not just yarn, but like things that I can feel are meant to be something, or like they're important to my practice, or maybe I feel like one of my gods wants me to have them, but I don't know the full story yet. So it's kind of a cool overlap. And if you want to go more into the spiritual pagan side of things, like that's kind of a doorway in. If you that's one thing that you might already know how to do, and also it shows that you don't have to have the whole plan in your head. You like often I don't know what something is going to be for. I'm just like I just feel like there's something pinging about this, so you know I'll just go ahead and get it. I'm not saying to just like get all the things that you feel like you might be pinging for, like if that makes sense. There is a process of like discernment and like trying to understand what's coming from your own brain versus what feels like an intuition, or what I would call like God phone when you feel like your gods or other spirits are saying something to you. But yeah, that's something that you can do. I'm going to go ahead and take this off. I mostly talked about the yarn being connected to the goddess that I call. So, often I just call her Sun Mom, because I feel like that includes all of the different names that I see her by, and also it makes space for the fact that not everyone sees like Terracia as being the same as Inanna, and that's fine. The dragonfly pattern and this are also kind of connected to her or to other parts of my spiritual path in different ways. But I feel like I've spent a long time on this, and I still have some other things to show you, so I don't... Maybe we'll just save this for... We'll save talking more about it for a future pagan chat. Time for another coffee break. Oh, right. Sorry, airplane. I'm not sure if you can hear that, but let's just wait till it flies by for a minute. Sorry, the tree rustled. I'm not sure what that was. Maybe like a squirrel or the wind. But yeah, I forgot to say that if I remember what a pattern was or what the yarn was, I will try and say it verbally. If I don't, I'm trying not to make this too complicated in terms of like things I do in post, because I want to get it out to you as fast as possible and not like burn out, because I'm been going through kind of a burnout phase and trying to come back from that. But if there's anything that you would like me to talk more about, or like if you want to know, hey, what was that pattern or yarn, please feel free to comment and ask. I'm happy to go and look it up for you if I can. I'm going to borrow some of the goat chair for right now. Here are two of the things that I have made for a specific witchy holiday, which happens to be Halloween. This was for last year. They're also for specific deities of mine, or like they're kind of both for slightly different faces of my patron god, Gwen. He has a lot of associations with Halloween, or in the Welsh version would be Nos Galan Gaeaf or Calan Gaeaf. So I'm not going to go into all of that, but this I made as a dragon wing cape. I think it was part of my costume, and I didn't make the pattern or the yarn. I think the yarn is from Ice Yarns, and the pattern is it was from someone on Ravelry that I can't remember their name, but like I just searched the dragon wing shawl. I think it may have been a paid pattern. Then this one, the yarn is one of the Hobie Halloween yarns, and the pattern is of course Lost Souls. I made it starting as a triangle shawl and then stopped adding skulls on the end because I wanted it to be a veil with like a pointy end on the back. So both of those show that you can create something that's connected to a holiday and or a deity or a spirit if you want to. The yarn and the actual pattern actually I kind of associate. I mean, the color of the yarn is important for most of my projects, because obviously I kind of associate this one, like the colors, more important in making that connection, or I guess expressing that connection. But really the pattern, the dragon wing here and the skulls here are what really made me think this is a pattern that I can use to create something for this god or like this time of year. So you could have multiple elements in a project, but some might be more important or more prominent. And also you don't have to make your own pattern or yarn like I did with the blue cape, because of course these aren't my yarn or my own patterns, so it's fine if you don't want to make a whole pattern as well as like do witchy stuff. Speaking of finding a pattern that works, I learned filet crochet for this, because all the best grapevine patterns, which is what I was looking for, were in filet crochet. I was hoping this yarn would last for the whole scarf or shawl. Obviously it didn't, so I used oh, and this this shawl was made as a devotional piece for Dionysus. I focused more on the Minoan face of his, but there's definitely also some of the Hellenic. So yeah, I started by using one of Boss Kitty's yarns, then switched to one of my yarns, which was dyed specifically with him in mind. This is one of the versions I've made of my my colorway Lover of the Sea, which is kind of a combination of two of the Minoan epithets that we have for him. And then just to as the last bit of the shawl, that since this yarn also ran out, I used as a second color of Boss Kitty yarns. So this was all hand-dyed yarn, but some of it was me and some of it was a different person. Some of it was specifically dyed for the deity that I was making this for. So some of it wasn't, as far as I know. But I still felt like the colors fit. Like there's this wine red and the deep purple, which are colors that I associate with Dionysus for perhaps obvious reasons. And then this one is more just supposed to be the ocean. And I've noticed this wasn't on purpose, but when I've gone to the beach here, I'm in California, and just like seeing the cold gray-green Pacific waves, I was like, wait a minute, that's this color. So it's nice that kind of, like, it was supposed to be the sea, but this version of the colorway looks exactly like the sea near me, which is cool. And then of course the pattern I chose was not made by me. I can't remember who did make it, but I have a couple of other, I guess, lives and stuff where I've put the pattern in the description. It's a grapevine filet crochet. Let's have another swig of coffee. You know, the nice thing about filet crochet is that it, like color work, can lets you draw pictures that might fit with the thing or like being you're trying to represent. So of course for this one, it's a pattern of grapevines. It's kind of hard to see, especially in this yarn, but there's you know, it's vines with bunches of grapes. One way that I also like to do that, like drawing pictures or symbols, is in mosaic crochet. This is one of the squares that I was doing for a year-long blanket. It's the Alt Knots Stitch and Scream crochet along. I've stopped. I mean, there's a stitch each month that is not what I was doing, because I find that I just can't, I can't make myself do the same stitch for a long time. So I was like, you know, I'll do a square each month, but just make it my own thing, and then it will kind of tell the story of the year. Because of the aforementioned burnout, I've kind of stopped doing that, but I did end up making 6 squares. So this is one of the ones that I made for, well, this is the one I made for June, and because that's when I really started connecting more with that. As you might have mentioned, as you might have noticed, I stutter, and there are certain names I stutter on more than others, but Dionysus, who I'll probably just shorten to Dio because that's easier for me to say personally, but this is supposed to kind of echo the dolphin frescoes at Knossos, because I associate him with more, well, I personally connect more to his Minoan face, and of course with dolphins. So I used some of the scrap yarns that I had to make this. I also wrote his name just kind of on. I wrote one of his names that we used, devotional, just in case you're like, wait, that doesn't look like the name I know. I'm actually really proud of figuring out how to do letters in mosaic crochet, because it's even more complicated than regular color work, because you can only you have to alternate colors, as you can see on the back. So you have to really like think about, okay, how do I create this shape? I'm gonna give Van Roosbach a chair. Most of my last few examples are also either mosaic or just the regular color work. This cardigan that I made, it's one of the bigger projects I've made, in terms of like a very spiritual for me project. It has a lot of different symbols on it that I have either chosen to put on or like been guided to by the gods that I was making this kind of with. And all of this yarn is yarn that I dyed for this project, so the colors have certain the meanings. It has these awesome sleeves and a hood, which is actually, the reason I'm having trouble putting it on is because the back edge is also loose, so that my hair can just go down the back, like through the opening, because I always had trouble with that with hoods. Like I don't think it's in the back opening right now, but okay, yeah. With long hair, I always have trouble with that with hoods because, like, do you just bunch your hair up under the cloak, or like have your hair like this, or what? So that's why I did it that way. I'm not sure if I have a lot more to say about this one, even though it felt like such a big project. Because there's a lot that I can't share because it's part of like it's like more connected to my some of my initiated traditions, or just it's not something that I have been given the go-ahead to share, or a lot of it I don't really know what it's doing yet. So sometimes projects that you're making with a god or spirit, or like other otherworldly being might be things that you don't fully know the whole story. So I guess that's a good takeaway from this. But I love how it turned out, and unfortunately I don't have a pattern for this one because I just made it up as I went for this project. So but there are other, like, lots of cool cardigan patterns out there. So lastly, I have a couple of blankets, which there are some people I know who make blankets like there's no tomorrow, and I admire how fast they are. I'm not very fast at making blankets, so when I do, it's like a big deal, but and they often have some kind of connection to my pagan stuff, because that's the most important thing in my life personally. My big sparkly blanket, which is mostly mosaic crochet from several different patterns. I think this one and like with the roses, and this one are both from Sixel Home Designs, which is an Etsy shop and also a YouTube channel. I think that's spelled Sixxel, and that was a paid pattern. And then these are Northern Tiles, I think that's the name, from I can't remember the name of the designer, but look for this, but like one of the colors is black and the other color is actually lots of different colors of a rainbow going out from the center. So if you see like a mosaic square pattern like that, then that's probably the one. That's also a paid pattern. There are a couple of things that I did, like this is a color work panel that I did. It's not mosaic crochet. And then there are just a couple of just random, like mosaic borders that I found, or I'm not sure if this one has any that I made up myself, but like this is one of the borders. Here's one. And all of these oh, and the yarn is from different places, like possibly, oh yeah, some of it is from Hobie. It's the sparkly Halloween universe. There's some non-Halloween but yes sparkly universe in here also. Some of that Lion Brand shawl in a ball, which is sadly discontinued as far as I know. There's some, I think this is from Ice Yarns. Same with the sparkly orange. And this is just some stuff from my stash that I don't know where it came from. But all of it, my rule for picking new yarns for the different parts of that was that all of it had to be sparkly, and I succeeded. So about the meaning of that blanket, when it started, I was not sure what exactly it was going to be, what the meaning was going to be, or like who it was going to be for. But as I went on, I realized that each section of the blanket tells, or like kind of represents part of the story of one of my gods. And of course it wasn't intended that way by the people who that wrote those patterns. That's a meaning that I found or was given that fits in my life and spiritual practice. But that's one reason that blanket is really special to me. So and that's one way of using color work to kind of show some, or that represent something in your spiritual or magical practice. The last thing, I unfortunately have to take away Van Rose's chair for a moment. The nice thing about color work in crochet is you can just create a picture yourself. One of the things I do is pixel art. So I make the pixel art portraits, and they're pretty easy to convert into charts because one pixel is one stitch. So I did that with a portrait I made of my patron god, Gwyn, and then I made a blanket. This is not yarn that I dyed. I tend to use acrylic yarn for these instead of hand dyed, because that both the beauty and what's a word for something that's like, it's both a strength and a weakness in different situations. But the thing about hand dyed yarn is that you can't get a really even color, which is part of what I love about it. But if you do want like a really even color, then machine dyed and I'm not sure about especially, but like acrylic is good for that. But yeah, here is my portrait of Gwyn. I feel like I'm a moth or something, like, here are my big eyes on my wings. And yes, he has a dragon tattoo on his chest. I wanted to basically draw him like a, if the Wild Hunt, which in my tradition, Gwyn is the leader of, which he leads the Wild Hunt on Halloween, comes back from the dead, and his slumber in Anun. What if the Wild Hunt were a biker gang and he's the head biker? Because I just thought that would be a super cool picture, so I drew him. He's got the crescent moon behind his head, like horns, kind of. So yeah, so my point, I guess, is if you want to just draw a picture of something that's important to your practice, or like a god that you like, maybe your patron god or something, and then just crochet a giant blanket of that, that's fine too. I'm actually doing that again right now with Sun Mom. I have a new portrait of her. There's a, I'm not sure if you've seen my mermaid Grafcan that has the green tail and like the green arm warmer and hair, and she wasn't intended to be Sun Mom, but once I met Sun Mom, I was like, oh, I think that's who I was drawing without knowing it, because I felt like there was something coming through that I wasn't quite sure what this was when I drew that picture, but I was like, wow, this feels different from most of my art. This feels like there's something really important and like lightning almost that's coming through, but I didn't know who it was back then. But now I'm also making a Grafcan of a portrait that is meant to be her. I actually posted a sneak peek of that on my Instagram last night. Last night as of posting this, I'll probably be posting more of that too. And well, now that we've gotten through the learning portion, I guess, this video is getting a bit long, but I would still like to tell you a few things about the vending event that I went to last month. It was done by my friends and housemates. Sorry, siren in the background. It was sorry. It was an event done by the Koru Kathabodwa priesthood, some of whom live in my house, or rather I live in their house. We're housemates. I'm the one that most recently moved in, so like that's why I say their house. But I'm not in that priesthood, but it's like it's a Irish and Gaulish polytheist tradition. So they have this big event that they do in August, which is like a bunch of pagans go and camp in the woods, and that was my first time doing doing anything like that, so I was kind of nervous, but it turned out great. It was so cool to see so many of my friends, not just people I'd met in person, but also like people I'd known online for a long time, and then they came here. Some came from like the Netherlands. Shout out to that person. And so there was a main dining hall which was set up to look like a kind of like a pagan feasting hall, and there were vending tables in there, but and that was where my yarn was. But there was also some tables that people had outside, and so I set up my yarn table. I had him watch it. I'm not sure who gave him this. I wasn't at my table most of the time because it was like, I'm not saying do this at, or that I would do this at other events, but it was a small group of people that I knew had all been extensively vetted by the people in charge, like just to make sure that they weren't like bad people. So like I knew that there was a lot of trust there. When I wasn't actually in the hall with my stuff, I just had him on the table as kind of like a guardian and just to look cute. So there was lots of time for someone to like sneak this onto him. And I kind of like it that I don't know who his mysterious benefactor was, but yeah, it's fun. I'm not sure if you can see, but it is sparkly. So sparkly black yarn is very much my brand, and so I'm happy that my goat has a the ruffly scarf in sparkly black yarn. And so this event was during the weekend. There were lots of like workshops and presentations, not all by the Koru priesthood or like specifically about Irish polytheism. There were some that people gave about things that they could speak about from their own practice. There was a really cool workshop about different types of mediumship by someone who has experience in a couple of different traditions. And I actually gave a workshop too. It was my first time doing something like that. Mine was mostly a version of what I've talked about here, except there that time it was more just like, here's some stuff I made, and this is what this is the type of thing each of these projects is doing, like in a spiritual sense. Like this was made for this god, or like this was made to like have this spiritual purpose. So it was more like a list than like, oh look, a squirrel. This time I tried to make it more like here's an example of this thing that I said that I would talk about is one thing that you can do. So, and then I also had a portion of the workshop where I taught people to make a simple lace stitch just in case they wanted to put it into practice. And that part was fun too. I had dyed a bunch of my own mini skeins, just the red and black, and I had way fewer people than I had dyed yarn for, but now I have a bunch of the red and black the mini skeins to find out what to do with, and they've all been wound, so it's not like I can sell them, because like I would want to sell them in like the Hank format. Like they've been caked up, so. But yeah, I'm sure I'll find something. And right, the stitch I taught them was the V stitch, where you just have double crochet, chain, double crochet, and then you make the second on the second row you make the next V stitch in the chain one space and just like stack them. So, oh yeah, the last thing I think I'll share from that, for right now at least, was, it was my birthday. I'm 33 now, on the Monday after the event, and so I wasn't sure what I was going to do for my birthday. I was just like, well, it's been kind of a rough summer, but I'm just happy I have something cool to do near my birthday. But I kept getting people saying, like at the event, I kept getting people saying, hey, I have something for you. Then they just give me like a small thing, and eventually I realized that one of my friends had been telling people that it was the birthday soon, and actually on Sunday I had a whole surprise birthday party. Like I was handed a stack of pancakes with strawberries and the whipped cream and the rainbow sprinkles, and people saying it, as a trans person with not supportive family, it was really cool to hear people proudly singing my name in the birthday song. And I got a whole bag with lots of cool stuff, an apron with a skeleton on it. I got a really cool serpent mug, like with a black mug with a white snake on it. I usually say serpent partly just because it's so hard to say words that begin with S in, but that one sadly broke shortly after, but I am getting a new one because I found it was, I'm not sure if it's still at Home Goods, which I think where it came from, but it was on Poshmark, so I got one. So I got a bunch of like different really cool prayer beads and candles and stuff, which is like getting Pagan swag. Really, any S blend is hard, but like getting Pagan stuff is just so cool. So I did buy a bunch of stuff too. I can talk about that in a future video if you would like, or just like my different stuff that I was just given. But yeah, it really made me realize, yeah, I do have a lot of people that care about me, and that I'm not as alone as I have felt. So yeah, you know, on that really nice note, let's just end here. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have more topics in pagan or witchy crochet that you'd like me to talk about, please let me know. I would love to make this kind of a series, maybe a podcast of sorts. If you would like to leave a comment for Banros, I'm sure he would love to see it as well. See, he would. So it's time to goat bye. Because I'm trying not to edit unless I have to. I'm gonna go ahead and push the stop button now. Okay, bye.